Hey, folks, it's Mark Arum. I hope you're enjoying the Mark Arum Show podcast. A reminder, you can hear this very radio show live Monday through Friday. We're live 6 to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday on 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk. Another sad day here at the Radio Ranch. In case you just missed it in the 6 p.m. nonstop news feed, we have lost our brother. Our comrade here at the radio station, WSB radio reporter Pete Combs, passed away at the age of 60, taken by cancer. I've lost way too many coworkers here in the last few years, and Pete is just going to be a huge loss to the newsroom, his friends, his family, but the community at large. This guy was a reporter's reporter. You know, if someone was writing a 1950s novel about a gritty reporter, that's Pete Combs, man. He went out there, no fear. That's why I could never be a good reporter.
Yeah, he had something I don't have.
Because I this is why it drives me crazy, this whole war on the media and fake news and everything. Because Pete was a loving husband, a loving father, a great dude. Would give you the shirt off his back, and I went out there and he heard Chris Camp mentioned in hurricanes and fires, and he goes out, and that's not the fearlessness I'm talking about. That's a certain type of fearlessness, but to have the fearlessness to ask tough questions in front of a room full. When I was a sports reporter, I was a good writer, but I hated asking questions in press conferences for fear of asking a dumb question and then getting. You have to be fearless to be a reporter and not have any worry that you're going to fail or you're going to ask a dumb question. You got to ask those questions, and Pete did that, and he did that with the best of them. He worked 2 stints here at WSB Radio. In between, went out to Seattle, made his mark there, came back here, and was reporting both for us and for ABC Radio News nationally. The national network recognized his ability, and they're like, oh, we're going to, we want Pete Combs to cover stories throughout the southeastern United States for our whole deal. He was an aviation expert. He'd come on the show at a moment's notice. Hey, Pete, got a story about an aircraft issue. Can you come on? Of course. When do you need me? But he'd been up for 18 hours and just went to bed. But hey, Pete, we need you to do a special. He was awesome. Great dude. Jovial laugh. Filled up the newsroom, and we're gonna miss him. My favorite Pete Combs memory though is not about him reporting. He was a street reporter. He was a street.
I very rarely saw him.
So he would have to anchor sometimes, and that was always an adventure because he's a street guy. You put Pete out in the wild, and he'll get you the story. He'll do what you have to do. Again, I don't have that gene. John Lewis was another guy.
Oh, yeah,
Bulldog.
Both of them, yeah.
No fear whatsoever. But, Pete was an outdoor cat, and then we'd bring him in indoor, and he'd have to he did the Chris Chandler job for a little while. And, I mean, he was a great anchor, but it just didn't suit us. And I remember him buzzing into the traffic center because he mistimed the cast. He'd be like, take it cold, no sponsor. Because he had totally run out of time. And it was great. I mean, he did it, and he did it well, but he excelled at reporting on the street, and just a huge, huge loss. 60 years old, man. It's just too young. It's just too young, Chuck.
I was just going to say, I'm driving home one day. This is my best Pete Combs story. I'm driving home one day, and all of a sudden, I'm about 3 blocks from my house. There's lights. I mean, fire engines, police, ambulance, and there was a little bit of an armed standoff a couple of blocks from my house.
Yeah.
I go driving by. Everything had got cleared out, but it was kind of the aftermath. There's a WSB rig parked on the sidewalk. He just pulled up on the boulevard on the sidewalk. I slow by, and I look. There's Pete typing out his report like he's on it, and I was like, "That's Pete." I told my wife, I was like, "That's Pete Combs." I laughed, and I told him about it later when we got into the station. I was like, "Saw you last night." He's like, "Where?" I was like, "On the boulevard, like parked on the sidewalk." And he's like, "Well, there wasn't anywhere else to park, and they told me to get out of the street, so he just pulled up on the lawn." Ah, dude, it was great.
Absolutely fearless guy. And when I say Pete is 60. To me, 60 used to be old. Like,
it's not.
It's not now.
No.
But he didn't look 60, act 60. Like I consider him a peer. Like I thought, he was my age. Like he didn't seem to be 15 years older than me. Just a great dude, a great reporter. A loss for us at the station, but really a loss for Metro Atlanta because Pete would not be he would not be scared to do any story.
No.
And he would get to the truth, and he was a true bulldog, and that's rare. That's rare. I don't have that. Chuck, as tough as the Montana kid is, doesn't have that. Longoria is a little bit of a bulldog, but
no, not like Pete.
But Pete had that genetic code to go out there and get the story, and that's rare, and it's valuable, and it's actually invaluable, and we're going to miss Pete Combs. So rest in peace to Pete. I'll play some Pete Combs audio throughout the show. Actually, I want to start with a story that Pete actually covered for years. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Georgia-Florida water wars.
We've covered it. I've heard a little bit about it.
For those of you who aren't familiar, it's basically Florida is suing, and there's two lawsuits. There's one involving Alabama, one involving Tennessee, but the main one is Georgia and Florida. And it's about the water that comes down out of Lake Lanier in the Chattahoochee River, and Florida's been complaining that Georgia's taking too much of the water. And there was a big ruling today that says that rejected a high court rejected Florida's claim that Georgia's taking too much water and pushed it to the Supreme Court, which apparently is a victory for Georgia. I don't know how the machinations of how this works, but the legal experts tell me this is a victory for Georgia. I want to talk about that, but not in the way you would normally talk about. I'm going to talk about it in the Mark Arum Show way. All right, so to personalize this water war story, when I was growing up, my family wasn't personally involved in it, but we were adjacent to this water war story. So where I grew up, I want you to picture, give me the Montana music, Longoria, because this is very Montana-esque.
Nice.
My childhood home sat up against woods, like acres of woods behind my house. And you go down a quarter mile, and there was this babbling brook. It was gorgeous. There's a rock cliff. I mean, you would love it, Chuck. I mean, it looked like Montana, especially in the winter with the snow. And as a kid, there was nothing better. Going in the woods, going down to the creek, catching crayfish, catching minnows. It was awesome. Playing Army in the woods.
Oh, yeah.
And I must have been like 11 or 12. And a neighbor like a quarter mile up on the creek decided to siphon the water off the creek to do a big pond in his backyard. And it left the normally babbling brook just like a trickle. And it caused this whole big thing, blah, blah, blah. And it was the guy's direct neighbor that complained the most about it because So this started like this whole water war. And finally, the guy didn't zone. Like, you have to get that zone to like siphon off public water. So that was like a little localized water war. So here what I want to talk about tonight on the show is, all right, you can kill the Montana music. I like the Montana music. We need a Connecticut music.
You do. You need
What is Connecticut music?
I don't know.
I've never been to Connecticut, so.
Neither have I.
Maybe like a Connecticut artist? Is there anybody big from Connecticut?
Nope.
I know there is a song about it, but it's might be a little bit offensive.
All right, we don't want an offensive. I'll think of it. I should know what a good Connecticut song would be.
Should.
Something classic rock, because that's all we listened to growing up is classic rock. So here's what I'll talk about. In response to the water wars here, Georgia, Florida, I want to know, because I know this happens a lot. I've never been personally, as an adult, involved in a fight with a neighbor, but I know there are neighborhood battles out there, much like this Georgia. Listen, Georgia, Florida, we're neighbors. We have to coexist. The people in South Georgia, they bump up right against Florida in the Panhandle, and we do have to share water that comes down. So we need to be neighborly at some point, much like we have to be neighbors here in Metro Atlanta. But I know there are neighbor spats that are just juicy and awesome, and I want to hear them. I want to hear a fight you got in with a neighbor, something stupid, a fence, a dog, a tree, whatever. I want to hear your best neighborhood battle with your next door neighbor in honor of the Georgia-Florida wars, which apparently a big legal victory here for Georgia. 404-872-0750, 1-800-WSB Talk. The other story I want to talk about, Deb Green, people complain about Atlanta drivers a lot. Right?
Especially since most of us aren't actually from Atlanta, so when we get here, it's shocking.
But I honestly don't think the bad drivers necessarily are the natives. I mean, I see just as many bad drivers with Indiana plates and Ohio plates, and I don't think
because they've moved here.
Exactly. I think a lot of the bad drivers are foreign born, and not no offense, Longoria, but I mean like born out, not born outside the United States, but born outside of Georgia.
Maybe they just learn from what they see. They see it every day from the native people.
And this is something that has changed, because when I first moved here in '96, I noticed the lack of aggressivity of Georgia drivers. Like, Georgia drivers, to me, after driving in the Northeast, they seemed very calm and they weren't like always out. That's changed over the last 20 years for sure. But Deb said, according to this new report by Gas Buddy, that Atlanta drivers are the most aggressive holiday drivers in the country. The most aggressive drivers in the country are now Atlanta drivers. Do you see that in your day-to-day?
I mean, I feel like I do, but I also grew up in a small farming community in the Midwest,
Maybe,
so
yeah.
any city is
Seems
10
like
times worse, yeah.
The three most aggressive drivers are all in the southeastern United States. So you think of the genteel southern folk, but according to Gas Buddy, number 1, Atlanta, number 2, Nashville, and number 3, Birmingham, Alabama. More aggressive than drivers in Sacramento and San Francisco and L.A., which are 4, 5, and 6, San Diego 7, Orlando 8, Raleigh 9, and Hartford, Connecticut. Yeah, hey, Hartford makes a list, is number 10. So those are the most aggressive drivers, a.k.a. the worst drivers during the holiday season. Do you agree with the data? Do you think Atlanta drivers are truly the worst? I don't think so. I think we're okay, actually, here. Not perfect, but okay. Your thoughts on that? I want your neighborhood wars. We're going to remember our buddy Pete Gomes, who passed away today at the age of 60. Rest in peace, Reporter Pete. You were one of a kind. We're going to miss you, pal. 404-872-0750 on Twitter and Instagram at Mark Arum. This is The Mark Arum Show.
Run, Rudolph, 'cause I'm reeling like a merry-go-round. Jingle bell,
45-degree angle to the wind. Now they're bending the other way, and many of them have now snapped. Signs have been torn up. Billboards have been completely destroyed. The frames now just flapping in the wind like little insignificant bits of metal.
Pete Combs, our buddy, covering one of many, many hurricanes. I believe that was Hurricane Michael. We lost Pete today at the age of 60. Thoughts and prayers to his WSB radio family and his family. We'll talk about Pete, and we're talking about water wars locally. I want to hear some stories about you and your neighbors brawling over something. Patrick's in Lawrenceville. Patrick, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mark. Nice to speak with you again. I've got a good one for you. It was a Saturday after Thanksgiving. So we had gone out Friday night and got away from family, had a good time. Saturday morning, I was a little hungover maybe, and my next door neighbor, who has a landscape business, has one of his guys out there blowing his yard.
What time of the morning is this?
Well, it was probably started about 9, which, you know, is reasonable, I guess. But this is a holiday weekend, and it went on for 3 hours.
Oh, can you hang on, Patrick? I want to hear the rest of the story when we come back after news, weather, and traffic. Georgia water wars. Have you ever had wars with your neighbors? And are Atlanta drivers the worst drivers, the most aggressive drivers in the country? 404-872-0750. It's the Mark Arum Show on WSB.
they thought I was tucked in bed. They never thought that I'd come a peeping, or that I'd hear what was said.
This is Kevin Neal, and you're listening to the Mark Arum Show. And let me tell you something. Unless you're in Temple, it does not get any more Jewish than this.
Heavy hearts once again at the WSB Radio Ranch. We lost one of the best today, Pete Combs. You heard Chris Chandler during the news. Lost his battle with cancer today at the age of 60. Jared Yamamoto from the Yvonne Hessler Doctrine had a good point on Twitter right now. He was an amazing storyteller. That is a great point, Jared. Because in radio, it's so different than television. In television, you know, you say, look behind me, look at the hurricane, But in radio, you have to paint a mental picture, and Pete was the best at doing that. Fearless reporter. He will be sorely, sorely missed. Thoughts and prayers to his wife, Karen, and his son, and all of his friends and family here at WSB Radio. If you want to discuss Pete's untimely departure and his career, I'd love to hear from you. But I also want to talk about the local story here is the water war with Georgia and Florida. The court rules in Georgia's favor. A neighborly battle, and I think we've all gone through those. Longoria, have you ever had a neighborly battle where you and a neighbor get involved in anything?
No, I've never had anything like that where we've gotten.
You seem like low key. I know
Yeah,
Chuck's got a bunch. We'll get the Chuck story
I'm sure. Yeah,
a little bit
What
later.
are you talking about? I'm a delight.
So I want to hear about your tussles with your neighbor over whatever it might be. Patrick was on before the news in Lawrenceville. Patrick, finish up your story. You had the landscaping crews out there at 9 in the morning for 3 hours. Then what happened?
Well, first of all, I want to give my regards and rest in peace,
Pete. Thank
Pete
you, buddy.
Combs. So yeah, it was a Saturday after Thanksgiving. It's a time to relax. The leaf blower was going on and on. It went on for about 2.5 hours. I just stood up out of my slumber. And I said, that's it. And I had that moment where it's like, okay, I'm ending this now. And I went over, I climbed over the fence, not over, but above, and I yelled at the young gentleman that was using the leaf blower. It wasn't my neighbor. It was one of his employees.
Yeah.
And he's Hispanic, and I started talking to him in Spanish. Well, apparently he didn't speak Spanish, which is obviously like this is a thing now. Like a lot of these young Hispanic folks they don't learn.
Longoria is one of them.
Yeah,
Longoria is one of them. All right, Pat, I gotta go, buddy. Thank you so much.
I had to move the leaf somewhere, man.
Exactly. James up next to the Mark Arum Show. Hello, James.
How's it going?
What up, buddy?
Oh, not much. Again, same thing with Pete. He's going to be missed. He's a great guy. Enjoyed listening to him and all of that.
Thank you, sir.
My story is I had a neighbor, president of the Homeowners Association. I applied for my permit, all of that, paid my money to start cutting down trees. This guy just gets insane because I didn't pay enough money because apparently he wanted me to pay per tree I'm cutting down. So we end up going to court, getting in this big, long battle and all of that. 2.5 years later, I end up running for president of the Homeowners Association against him.
Nice. Did you win?
Oh, yeah. I did.
That's awesome. You know it's serious when the story goes, and then we're in court. Like that's
right.
That's when you know it took a good turn.
Yeah, that's when it escalated. Yeah, so we're in front of the judge, and then Dion is in Dallas. Dion, welcome to the show.
What's happening, everyone?
How
I'll
are
make
you,
this
Dion?
real quick. Thoughts and prayers for Pete Combs and his family and you guys.
Thank you, sir.
He was a great anchor. Enjoyed listening to him every day. But about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, lived in a townhouse. My ex-wife, little brother moved down here from up north. He got to know one of the neighbors in the complex. She lived a couple doors down from us. She was married. Got to know her.
Oh no!
In a biblical sense.
Okay.
Right. So the husband finds out. Husband comes to me. Hey man, why didn't you tell me? Your brother and my wife and this, that, and the other things. I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's on you guys.
Yeah.
So over the course of the next week, I'd see him out in the parking lot, kind of stalking around. Me and my ex-wife's car, stalking around the building, right? Just being real creepy. I told him, hey, man, if you don't cut it out, there's going to be an issue. Well, sure enough, a couple of days later, he's out there trying to flatten the tires on my truck.
Oh!
And so him and I got into a physical scuffle. He ended up going to the hospital, and the cops showed up and told me I had 24 hours to vacate.
And vacate you did. Well, that escalated quickly as well. Oh, I wasn't thinking we were going to get this serious on these, but all right, keep them coming. Your battles with your neighbors in honor of the Georgia-Florida Water Wars, 404-872-0750, 1-800-WSB-TALK, on Twitter and Instagram at Mark Arum. This is The Mark Arum Show.
Merry Christmas to you.
Mele Kaliki Maka is a thing to say on a bright Hawaiian Christmas day.
Neighborly feud between Georgia and Florida heating up over the water wars. Court decision today favors Georgia. I want to know about your neighborly feuds and how bad did it get? Chris joins us on the program. Hello, Chris.
Hey, Chris. Definitely are going to miss Pete and the great stories that he told.
Amen.
Did a great job with that.
Amen. Thank you.
So this is a water war with the neighbor. My grandparents had a place on a lake, and the neighbor also had a boat and a dock, and we had a boat and a dock, and the neighbor proceeded to keep dumping trash behind our dock. So when we tried to pull the boat out, it would get scratched when the tide was out. So my grandfather over the years sort of got tired of it. He was throwing everything from like mattresses and box springs. We're not talking small trash.
Yeah, huge
lumber.
stuff.
Anyway, messed up the boat. My grandfather had it, caught him one day out there dumping, and got the BB gun and shot him in the rear. And my grandfather spent the night in jail.
You never mess with another man's boat, right? I mean, I've never owned a boat, but I don't think you mess with another man's boat, Longoria.
Yeah.
Or as the previous caller, or another man's wife. Those are two things.
That's
leave the wife
too.
and the boat alone.
Yeah.
AJ's in Brookhaven. AJ, welcome to the Mark Arum Show.
Hey, thanks. This isn't about a water war. It's your comment on traffic, and I hate to say it. Cobb County, if it has a Cobb County tag out of Atlanta,
that's the symbol,
I'm calling them out. They're the worst drivers. I drive all the time. all day long.
I've never been.
Yeah.
I've there are certain tags that I think, and I catch a lot of flack for this. I don't really pay attention to the county tag unless it's like something like Bibb County. Like if someone's driving erratically and I see a Bibb County tag or Valdosta, I'm like, all right, they're not from here. And I say this with all due respect to my beautiful girlfriend who is a teacher, I educator tags. If you got an educator license plate,
you better be careful.
I don't know what it is. I think it's part of the fact that like they're the boss in the classroom, and then they still have that mindset once they leave. Like I'm the boss here, and they treat all the other commuters like third graders. That's just what I've noticed. Anecdotally, that's what I've noticed as far as drivers are concerned. Bill is in Buford, Georgia. Bill, welcome to the Mark Arum Show.
Hey, thanks, Mark. My condolences to the WSB family and Pete's family. I've been listening to WSB since I moved here 30 years ago, and I've heard plenty of his stories.
He was amazing, no doubt.
Yep, my neighbor's story actually dates back 25 years, so it was a whole different environment then in the suburban neighborhoods. So, not quite like it was today. Everyone got along much better. However, my wife and I had just purchased our first starter home, a 3-bedroom out in Snellville on a postage stamp. And the neighbor across the street, the road was literally 2 cars wide. I spent all this money in landscaping, bought my first set of landscape tools, had a blower, everything. And she would go out and just mow her grass and blow everything across the street into my yard.
Oh, that's so annoying. So annoying.
So I would go out the next weekend and I would do my yard and I would take care of my clippings and everything, but I would blow hers back onto her side of the street.
Yeah.
And that went on for a few weeks until finally one day we both cut our grass the same day and we literally were standing
right at each other
in our yard, blowing it back and forth at each other. And I will never forget that.
I don't know what the rules are, but there's a lot. And that's weird. A lot of landscaping issues between neighbors. But if I'm driving to work and they get the landscapers out, there's like some fancier neighborhood near my neighborhood, and they're just blowing the leaves right into the street. Like, is that legal? Can you just blow it?
I saw that the other day too, and then I didn't know whether to run over them or go around them or.
They're
what.
just like I'm not raking these things.
Yeah.
I'm just blowing them into the street. That's as a
lazy.
traffic reporter, I think that's hazardous. I don't think that should be allowed. Do what I did when I was a kid. You rake them and you put them in the big plastic bag and then you throw them away. You'll just blow them out in the street, Longoria. I'm not saying it was you.
Yeah,
but,
it wasn't
when we come back, we'll reflect more on the passing of our buddy Pete Combs, more on the Georgia-Florida water wars. What neighborly battles have you had? And are Atlanta drivers the worst drivers during the holiday season? Your thoughts, 404-872-0750, 1-800-WSB-TALK, plus Lil Sanjay with Would You Rather on The Mark Arum Show.
The Mark Arum Show is performed before a live studio audience.
No, I want this town to be near you. I stand alone. I stand alone.
Welcome back to the show and a good Thursday Eve to you. Mark Arum here, you there. It's 7:08, 8 minutes after 7 o'clock. This is the Mark Arum Show, heard Monday through Friday, 6 to 8 p.m. on 95.5 WSB. The whole gang's here tonight. Deb Green produces the show. Longoria, the stoic Eskimo, on the other side of the takeout window. Low T screens your call. We'll continue to discuss the passing of our dear friend Pete Combs, who passed away today at the age of 60 after a battle with cancer. We will discuss Atlanta drivers. Gas Buddy says in the holiday season, Deb Green, Atlanta drivers are the worst drivers in the nation. I do see a change during the holidays from bad to worse.
From bad to worse? So
yes.
Any other time it's okay, just during the holidays.
It gets worse during the holidays, especially around malls and trying to find parking spots. Like it should be the festive season.
Oh, no way.
No.
You never worked retail then.
It's, I did, but in a cigar store. It was kind of laid back in the
Not the
cigar store. We'll talk about that, your thoughts on Atlanta drivers during the holiday season. And Georgia-Florida water wars. The court today ruled something in favor of Georgia. I really don't know what it is, but it's good news for Georgia water users, which I guess is everyone listening to me right now. But it's a neighborly battle between Georgia and Florida. I want to hear about your neighborly battles. What has happened with you and your neighbors that have escalated to a bad scene, as Longoria would say? It's a bad scene, dude. Charlie's in Milton. Charlie, welcome to the Mark Arum Show.
Hey, sorry about Pete Combs passing.
Thank you, brother.
Wonderful guy. But I should have said St. George Island as well, because part of this water war, me being an owner here in Georgia and in Florida on St. George,
Mm-hmm.
the Chattahoochee River flows into the Apalachicola, which flows across St. George Island. And part of the problem we have down there is pollution
Mm-hmm.
coming mainly from Atlanta and Fulton,
Okay.
and then, partially downstream as well. So if we can be good stewards of our water here and be good neighbors, because I've got an interest here and an interest in Florida, and, install less landscape that requires water use.
Yeah.
We need to put pressure on Atlanta to clean up their sewer system and to quit polluting the Chattahoochee River.
So it's not so
Because
much
it
about the
killed-
amount of water used, it's the cleanliness of the water is what you're saying.
It has killed the oyster population.
That's what I was going to say. It didn't have something to do with the oysters?
Absolutely. The oysters that we eat on St. George at the restaurants there in Apalachicola don't come from there anymore. They come from either Alligator Point
Mm-hmm.
or they come from, sometimes they come from the Atlantic side now.
Yeah.
The Atlantic, the oyster population over in the Outer Banks is flourishing, and we've got to figure out something about St. George Island Sound and Apalachicola Bay to get them going back going again. But
I think
when
we
you
can
drive
all
across the
agree
bridge-
that clean water is, I think that I thought the headline was the amount of water we were using and releasing from Lake Lanier that would go down to Apalachicola. But the clean, we can all agree we need clean water. That's number one. Clean air, clean water, Longoria.
That's true.
I think President Trump said it best. Clean air, clean water.
Oh, is that what he said?
We have the cleanest air. We have the cleanest water. Now let's make it a reality. Greg is in Tequila. Greg, welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you?
What's up, Gregory?
Well, first, I'm sorry to hear about Pete Combs. He's been a great reporter over the years.
Indeed. Thank you, sir.
Yes, I had a neighbor that lived on the corner from me, and he used to park in the street all the time. And instead of parking in front of his house, he'd park on the side street. So whenever I tried to back out of my driveway, I always had to avoid his car.
Oh, that stinks.
Yeah, and I tell him about it several times. He always get real belligerent about it. And then one night it happened. I left late, didn't really look, and I ran into his car. So walked over, knocked on his door, and I said, "Hey, I hit your car," and he just goes ballistic, and I told him what happened, and he started getting really ballistic about it. I said, well, I've been telling you, for 6 months, that's a dangerous place to park. And so finally he says, I'm going to call the police. I said, well, you don't have to do that. He goes, no, I'm calling the police. So the police show up, and he asked me what happened. I said, I told him what happened, and he says, okay, I need to see your driver's license, registration, and your proof of insurance. So I give it to him, and then he says to my neighbor, I need to see your registration and your proof of insurance. And the neighbor says, well, I don't have any proof of insurance.
Oh, no.
And the police officer said, you don't have any proof of insurance? And he said, well, no, not right this, not at this minute, I don't.
And his car's on the street.
Yeah, and he hands me back all my information and says, sir, you're free to go.
But did he arrest your neighbor?
I don't know what he did. I just went back inside. I just got in my car and I took off.
Yeah, because I think if your car's not insured, it's on a public street, that's a violation of Longoria Code 319.
That is it.
Yeah.
That's right.
404-872-0750, 1-800-WSB Talk.
Wait.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Sorry, Sanjay. Hang on, buddy.
It's time.
I was getting the red alert. Sorry.
For Would You Rather with Lil Sanjay.
He waits for no one. He's the guru, the soothsayer, the truth seeker, the asker of unanswerable questions. He joins us every Tuesday and Thursday on the Mark Arum Show. He's Big Sanjay with Would You Rather. How are you, Sanjay?
I'm doing well. Longo's falling asleep at the wheel.
He's a little busy. He's wearing the Mark Arum Show sweatshirt, by the way, so he does get props for that.
Come on.
What? Let me ask you, little Sanjay. Do you ever wear the Mark Arum sweatshirt we got you, or no?
It's too small.
What?
A youth medium is not my size.
Is it really too small?
As much as you think it is. I didn't get a Mark Arum sweatshirt, man.
We got him one, didn't we, Deb?
I gave you everything else that I didn't
All right,
pass out in the building.
I'll check the prize closet. Anyway, Sanjay. Okay. Sanjay is going to ask us unanswerable questions. I'm sorry, newlywed Sanjay is going to ask us unanswerable questions. We're going to answer them here in the studio. Feel free to play along in your car. What's the first question, Sanjay?
All right, Josie's listening, so say something nice. But
Hi, Josie, beautiful bride.
All right, would you rather run out of toilet paper while taking a number 2 or run out of hot water in the middle of a shower?
Middle of the shower.
Yeah.
Middle of the shower.
Definitely middle of the shower.
I mean like you're all lathered up.
Yeah, I get it.
Up.
I get it.
You're all lathered up.
Yeah, I get it.
I could take a quick shower.
I have royal bathers, much like Prince Hakeem, so they'll have to deal with that. But yeah, I'm not running out of TP in the middle of a number 2. Charles.
Without question, run out of water.
Yeah, Longoria.
Yeah, water.
I do not. I don't want to go through the day with
toilet paper. See, that's why I feel so lucky that I'm living in the time that I am now.
Yes.
Can you imagine the Middle Ages when whatever they were doing with leaves and pot pies, whatever they were. Pot pies. I don't know, whatever they were doing to clean up down there.
It wasn't working.
That Charmin Ultra Soft. I mean, I thank the Lord for it every time I use it. All right, next question, Sanjay.
All right, number 2, would you rather drink milk with ice or drink orange juice immediately after brushing your teeth?
Is milk with ice a bad thing?
I mean,
weird.
I mean, it's weird, but
not the word. It's not.
Yeah, if you chug it, I mean, before the ice melts, you'll be fine. I'll do milk with ice.
Yeah, I think milk with ice is the easiest.
Yeah, that taste of orange juice after you're brushing your
toothpaste,
yeah.
I'll go milk with ice, but I'll go whole milk with ice.
Yeah, you can choose whatever milk you want. You can do chocolate milk.
2%. Oh, yeah, 1%.
But I'm just thinking if the ice waters it down, I'd rather have whole milk.
Oh,
than
yeah.
if I got
very smart.
See, if I don't get to it
because skim
right
milk
away.
is basically watered down whole milk anyway.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with whole,
All right.
just to be more specific, whole milk with ice.
You can get the lactate milk too if you want.
Yeah, no, I'm
whatever
good. I
milk
don't
you
need
want.
it.
Yeah, I'm going milk with ice.
All right, next question, Sanjay. We're unanimous
All
so
right,
far, guys.
Would you rather have a car that never runs out of gas or a car that does not require maintenance?
So Clark Howard's Tesla, or a car that is never no maintenance needed. I'll go car with never runs out of gas.
Yeah, never runs out of gas. I can do some stuff on my car, take care of it.
I think cost wise, never having to pay for gas, you'll save more money than never getting your car fixed.
1,000% the gas.
Yeah.
Yeah, gas.
Longoria. All
I
right.
hate putting gas.
We're still unanimous, Sanjay. Keep going, buddy.
Okay. Would you rather wear pants with the elasticity gone forever or socks with a big hole at your big toe forever?
Now, I don't have
pants with elasticity.
Yeah, I mean sweatpants. I guess you're thinking about.
I'm assuming you wore sweatpants all day.
You think we wear fat guy jeans with the?
It's like, what is happening?
Maternity
you get
jeans.
The point.
I don't know. I guess the holes in the socks. But look, so I don't know about you guys. I buy underwear like every 15 years. I know I'm looking at Deb when I say this.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I don't remember I think my wife bought
my
me.
wife buys all that stuff.
Yep.
Otherwise, it wouldn't happen.
So I'm like at the end of the 15-year cycle.
Yeah.
And the elasticity. Is going. And so this morning, like I'm toward the end of the wash cycle.
Lifespan?
And all I had left this morning were like really old, like no elasticity left in there.
It's like they're not, almost wrinkled.
Yeah, they're like
they're wavy, crinkly.
Crinkly,
Yes.
So I'm down to that.
Yeah.
So my first day of vacation, I'm going to buy new underwear at
there you
K&G.
go.
Yeah, it's been a good run.
Yeah.
I mean, these boxer briefs have taken me.
That's a big deal.
A decade and a half. It's going to be 2020. I need new underwear.
That's true. Most definitely.
Anyway, so I guess I'm going
I
socks.
would never let my husband's underwear get that way. I'm
No?
like, all right, I got to run to the store. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the problem is, so I always send my laundry out. So my
yeah.
significant other never sees the elasticity.
Yeah.
The lady at the cleaner,
she should buy you new underwear.
She should be like, dude, what are you doing with these
Hey,
things?
it's
Or at
15
least
years.
put a
Your time's
note
up.
in there.
Exactly.
Yeah, no.
Or just leave you little notes.
She
about
should start
your
pulling them
clothes.
out one at a time. Like, all right,
There you
these are
go.
no good.
Yeah,
these
throw
are
'em
no
out.
good.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah, Chuck, hole or pants or whatever the hell he said.
I guess a hole in the sock. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the hole in the sock.
I can't
don't
remember the
wanna-
last time I had a hole in the sock. I know it's annoying, but it's been a while. You got one more,
Let me
Sanjay?
ask you a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mark, did you ever find that Holy Grail undershirt
Nope.
that you were looking for 8
Nope.
years ago?
David Taylor, extra tall, extra large. I'll pay $100 for a brand new white David Taylor,
yeah, I
extra
forgot
white,
you were
extra
talking
large.
about
Yeah. I did not find that. All right, real quick, last question, Sanjay.
All right, would you rather go bald or have hair that grows so fast you have to shave multiple times a day?
Hair that grows fast, I have to shave multiple times a day.
Bald wear wig.
I would like to see Deb shaving twice a day.
I'll go bald.
You go bald?
Yeah.
Hair that grows fast.
Your hair does grow fast.
I don't want to go bald.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't
Me
wanna go
neither. No offense to the.
You only cut your hair once every 6 months anyway, so you're good.
Exactly. Sanjay, believe it or not, is the official accountant of the Mark Arum Show. Find him on Facebook. Brass Tax Accounting or brass.tax is the website, right?
Yes, sir.
I got it. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, Sanjay. We'll talk to you in 2020, buddy.
My man.
All right, there he is. Big Sanjay with Would You Rather. We'll come back with your calls and Russ in Gainesville. It's the Mark Arum Show on WSB.
Down through the chimney with good St. Nick.
Mark Arum on 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk.
43 degrees on Peachtree Street, a 2.5 on the Mark Arum Show back sweat meter. We're going to find our bell. Do we know what happened to our bell?
I have no idea. I'll find one when we come back.
Did Santa need it for the reindeer? That's the only reasonable explanation that we don't have the bell in here. Russ joins us in Gainesville.
Russ, come here a minute. I want to talk.
Hello, Russell. How are you, my friend?
I'm great. I just bought me some new suede shoes. They did not have any blue ones.
Where do you buy suede shoes in 2019? Where are those things?
Walmart.
Oh, all right. We're shopping at no, that's Publix. You know what? I should now. I've been getting my underwear at K&G Men's Warehouse for years. I'll stick with that. What's your underwear cycle like there, Russ?
You are not going to believe this, but I don't wear underwear.
You know what? That does not shock me.
I haven't had a pair of underwear since I was a kid.
I could tell you were a commando guy from the first time I met you, my friend.
You know, my mom told me I would regret it, and it only happened one time.
Yeah.
When I joined the Air Force, we were all standing in this room. There was about 50 of us, and Sergeant said, "Drop down to your underwear."
And Russ says, "I'm not wearing any, sir."
He said, "What's your deal, man?" I said,
I'm Russ in Gainesville. That's what my deal is. You got to be ready when the moment hits. Russ, real quick, any lady on your arm tonight, my friend?
No, you know what? This morning I woke up, my phone was dead. Apparently my charger's not working. And you know what I did? I said, I'm not going to charge it. I went all day with no phone.
It's liberating.
You know, I didn't want anybody bothering me today.
Understood. All right. We'll take a day off. Rest. You need a day of rest. A day of respite for Russ in Gainesville. Russ, tomorrow's the last show of the year, buddy. If we don't talk to you, have a great New Year, Merry Christmas, all that good stuff, buddy.
Thanks a lot. Are you coming to Walmart?
I might. I'm trying to figure out which Walmart I'm going to go to, but I'll let you know on Twitter, folks, if you want to. Clark's Christmas Kids, by the way, continues tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday. Tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday. All the details on WSBRadio.com. I'll be at one more. I just don't know which one yet, but I'll let you know. When we come back, more of your neighborly battles, and we'll have fun for the last half hour of the show. 404-872-0750.
Hi, everybody. This is Johnny Bench, and you're listening to Mark Arum Show. It's one of the best.
Hey, do you know about the USA? Do you know about the government? Can you tell me about the Constitution? Hey, learn about the USA.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, to provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America.
Welcome back to the show, 7:37, 23 in front of 8. This Thursday edition of the Mark Arum Show with heavy hearts. Yet again, another loss here at WSB Radio. In case you're just joining us, our longtime reporter colleague Pete Combs passed away at the age of 60. Pete was simply the best reporter out there. He was a reporter's reporter, a guy would go out there and cover the big stories. And to me, he was just fearless. And that's the thing you have to be a good reporter, is to be fearless. I am not fearless, which is why I would not make a good reporter. Pete was, and he was a great storyteller, and he'll be sorely missed. Joining us from the Radio News Center is WSB anchor Chris Chandler, who's staying late to work for us today. Chris, Pete was back here, I guess he started in 2004. Had 2 stints at WSB. Your best remembrances of our buddy Pete Combs.
Oh, my goodness. Well, you know, Pete actually trained me in this anchor slot when I came here.
No kidding.
And he was quite the guy. He was standing right here beside me when the first time they ever let me fly solo, and I was petrified like a baby about to squee the pants. And he stood right here and held my hand. And, you know, you're absolutely right. I think it's folks in Atlanta may not realize, and really they're kind of spoiled because they've grown up with WSB. to be able to have, in our community, reporters like Pete who are, send me anywhere, boots on the ground, experts in every subject, it's really something. And he was really one of the best that we have ever had here, and one of the best I've ever worked with, I think.
Unbelievable. So I was telling you earlier in the show. So Pete was the anchor for Atlanta's Evening News before you,
right?
And I mean, he did a fine job, but he's an outdoor cat.
Oh, goodness. Yes.
And we tried to make him an indoor cat for a little while, but his strength was being that outdoor cat and go cover this shooting, go cover this fire, this hurricane, any aviation disaster. I mean, he was an aviation expert.
There, yeah.
And it was great as a talk show host because he could come in and tell a story and paint the visual pictures. I remember I forgot what story he was covering. It was somewhere, and he was on here. And he just it was like you were watching a movie.
He could make everything sound like a bedtime story by the time you were done. Once upon a time, and then this, and then this, and then this, and he drew you in. He could do it. You could listen to him for an hour,
exactly,
telling a story.
And you would just let him go.
Yeah,
Chris Chandler joins us here. The loss of Pete Combs, the age of 60. For the folks that don't know what happened to Pete, it was cancer.
He had cancer, and he was diagnosed really just a very short time ago, and he was under treatment, and he was moved to hospice, I think, probably about a week ago.
Yeah, and I remember he was complaining of back pain.
Yeah, for a long while.
For a long time, and apparently that was the symptom that led him to go to the doctor, and it turned out to be cancer.
And kept working and kept working.
Yeah, unbelievable. And I'm glad. So Pete left to go to Seattle for a couple
Washington,
years.
That's right. Yeah.
And my brother lives out there, so I connected those two.
Yeah.
And you know what a great job Pete does. And then we were lucky enough to get him back here.
Pete much preferred Atlanta.
Oh, yeah, 100%. 100%. But Pete did the dual role. I said this also. So Pete was a reporter for WSB, but he was also a national correspondent for ABC Radio.
That's right. I mentioned that in the news. People listening here probably don't realize that. He worked for CBS when we were a CBS affiliate, and he was a full-time correspondent for ABC.
One time, so the Sandy Hook shooting back in Connecticut. So I was on vacation at the time. Actually, it was probably like 9 years ago.
Right around now.
Yeah, right around. It might even be today.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm there, and the Sandy Hook shooting happens in Connecticut, and Candace Presley calls me and says, "We need you to do a talk show about this. You're our guy. You know Connecticut. You know the area. Go to the CBS Radio News studios in New York." Because I was in New York City.
Yeah.
And so I go there, and they shared the same building with the CBS TV studios at the time. And I went in there, and everyone was like, "You work with Pete Combs? Do you know Pete Combs?" It was pretty amazing. Like all the radio people were like,
"Oh, and you reverse that. He knew everybody, everywhere."
Absolutely. Yeah. And I've been seeing the outpour on Twitter. Reporters from all over the nation sending their condolences because Pete was the best.
Yeah, and he was ours.
Indeed. Pete Combs gone at the age of 60, way, way too soon. Big loss for us at WSB, his family, and for all the listeners in Metro Atlanta. Back to the phones we go. Joseph talking about neighborly battles. Joseph, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you, sir?
Excellent. What's going on?
Well, I'll tell you what. I lived in a small town in East San Diego County before I moved to Cleveland, Georgia to be with my grandchildren. And I had a neighbor. She got a rooster.
Oh, no.
Loved listening to the rooster.
Oh, no.
Because the rooster was probably about 40 or 50 yards from my house. And, of course, there you spend a lot of money trying to, to buy a house and small property. I mean, you could spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a very small house.
And let me guess.
In Lakeside, California.
The rooster would get up. I'm going to cut to the chase a little bit here, Joseph. The rooster would crow every morning? Is that where you're going?
Every morning. So anyways, I started getting a little bit annoyed with it. So I went out to prove a point, and I went out in my boat, and I grabbed a boat horn. And so what I did is when that rooster crowed, I hit the boat horn. When he crowed again, I hit the boat horn. And after a while, the rooster shut up, but the neighbor didn't. So I actually had to call animal control, and they put a meter on the fence, and they actually said the decibel points are just redlined on that rooster,
So what did they do? They make him get rid of the rooster?
Move it.
Yeah. Chuck, is that true? I'm going to go to Montana Kid on this. I have very limited rooster knowledge.
Yes.
Do roosters crow at daybreak, at sunrise?
For the most part, give or take. Yeah. They'll start to crow.
What good is a rooster? Do you eat a rooster?
Oh yeah, you can eat them.
You can eat them?
Yeah.
But they don't. They're male, right? So they don't produce eggs. They just.
They'll
You need them for the
fertilize
chickens.
hens
Yeah,
so that
okay.
They lay viable.
Actually, Deb's a farm girl as well.
Had roosters. My parents have chickens and roosters.
Yeah.
Yep. Sperm meets egg.
You got a chicken, you got a hen, and you got a rooster.
Who's having sex with So do the roosters crow at daybreak?
Yeah, well, they kind of crow all the time. But
Okay.
once it starts to get a little more light out,
Yeah.
because they'll start to
They
wander.
get a little more active
Yes.
as the sun's coming up.
Because what I've noticed for my horrible morning schedule every day, I'm up before the sun rises, obviously, and 3:34 in the morning, the birds are chirping already, way before sunrise, Longoria. So I don't know if
maybe they just see light.
No, I mean
maybe they're chirping at you.
No, hey, it's Arum.
Arum.
You know what's so scary? I was walking by a traffic guy. The birds in my neighborhood. This is really weird. I don't know what bird this is, and I want to get into birding in my retirement years. That's gonna be
funny.
I totally want to be a birder in my house. But there's some sort of breed of bird near my house. I live right on Peachtree Creek, and I'm walking the dogs, and their call sounds like this. Pick left, pick left, pick left, pick left. Like they're playing pickup basketball, and it's like
It can't be real.
I'm telling you, it's like pick left, pick left.
I think there's a kid in one of those surrounding houses.
If any bird expert knows, I mean, it's not
left.
It's not
calling out football plays.
Yes, basically, they're like pick left, pick left, pick. So it's like taking me back to my pickup basketball days, where if you're getting picked, somebody be like, "Hey, pick left."
Right. Oh yeah.
That's what the birds are like. Pick left, pick left. So if anyone knows what bird that is, I'll give you the prize pack.
Going crazy.
What's the bird that says pick left all the time? And it's never. They don't change it up. It's never pick right. It's always pick left. Rick is up next on the Mark Arum Show. Hello, Rick.
Hey, how you doing? I've got a story involving a neighbor and a property line dispute.
Okay.
It was pretty bad back in the day. I was about 9 years old at the time, but my dad, we was doing well. We got a vacant lot to move into and build a house on. And it was at the end, if you can picture an end of a like a circle drive. And at the end of that drive, there's this one house that was already there with this gorgeous green lawn and the house up on the hill. And then on the left was our vacant lot, which the access to it was just enough to actually get a driveway in. And then it sort of opened up as a V and went out, and it was up on a little bit higher hill, and it had all kinds of weeds and stuff. So we started building the house, my dad did, and the builders said, we got a problem here because the driveway over here, which is over towards the nice green lawn, is coming in a lot closer to the property line than we thought it was going to. Well, it turns out that the people next door had not done a survey, and they put in their house.
Oh, no.
And so they finally decided, my dad finally decided, well, we got to get a survey and find out exactly where the line is. Because it's one of those places where you've got a hill going up and over, so it's not like a straight line down
So basically,
field.
did they build their house on a land that didn't belong to them?
They built it right on the property line, but over the last 10 years before that, they had gone into the weeds and sort of gone up on the hill. So you really couldn't tell from the street because you couldn't see over it. It sort of looked like it was a straight line, but it was sort of not a straight line.
Understood.
Turns out that they were right on the property line. My dad tried to negotiate with them to say, hey,
I'm
they
surprised.
wanted it free.
Well, I appreciate the call, Rick. I'm surprised we haven't had many calls because I thought one of the most common calls was going to be like, I want to put up a fence and it was on the property line, or their tree hung over into my yard and it created my house. Like that to me is the most common neighborly disputes. Maybe I'm wrong. One more segment to go, Longoria.
I know.
One show and one segment left for 2019. I'm so excited.
Can't believe it.
So excited. 404-872-0750, 1-800-WSB Talk. On Twitter and Instagram at Mark Arum. What do you know? It's the Mark Arum Show.
Mark Arum on 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk.
Final segment of the show. Got to be real quick with these neighborhood dust-ups. James joins us on the Mark Arum Show. What's cooking, James?
Hey,
Hey, Mark, Atlanta drivers are the worst. I'm a DoorDash driver in addition to a teacher, and I was hit twice in 1 week.
Oh, my
Once by
goodness.
somebody trying to pass me in a turning lane, and another by a teenager on a cell phone who wasn't paying attention.
Be nice to the DoorDash drivers, folks, and tip them. Tip them well, Longoria.
Oh, I do.
All right, good. I'm not just saying for you. I'm saying everybody. Lisa is in Athens. Lisa, welcome to the Mark Arum Show.
Well, hello, Mark. My husband, we began having issues with our neighbor who was blowing leaves and grass over into our yard. So he mentioned it to her, and she works long hours, and she's a single female. And so he had mentioned it to her, and she said, well, I will try. Well, after a couple of weeks, it still kept going on, and his cure for that was it was easier for him to cut her yard and blow her leaves, same time he did ours, and he took care of it for her.
Oh, wow.
And he always got really great gifts on his birthday and on his for Christmas.
That's awesome. That's what I like to hear right there, Longoria. Rick is up next on the Mark Arum Show. Hello, Rick.
Sorry for the dramatic pause, but here's the best part of the story. You're going to love this.
Okay.
The talks broke down. They couldn't come up with a price, so the city made the people next door cut 10 feet off the side of their house. And the property line stayed where it was. The relations between the two families was sort of cool. My parents put up a big fence and a bunch of bushy pine trees, and
10 feet off the house. All right, Rick with part 2 of his story. Awesome. Dale is up next on the Mark Arum Show. Hello, Dale.
Hey, how you doing, Mark? I love your show, guys.
Thank you, brother.
Great job. I think I got a name for the bird that's talking to you in the basketball lingo.
Pick left.
Could it be the Larry Bird?
Damn it! Where's my bell?
That was a good one.
Yeah, all right. That is a good one. I'm telling you. I'll get audio of it tomorrow.
We should give him a prize.
Pick left. Pick left. Pick left.
I'm sure that's not what it says.
That's exactly what it says. Pick left. Pick left. Anyway, all right. Tomorrow on the show, Rick's going to call with part 3 of the story of his
Sorry
thing.
about that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. Let's do star of the show, Longoria.
And now, are you guys ready for the Mark Arum star of the show?
No doubt about it. Tonight, our departed brother, Pete Combs, the final star of the show of 2019, goes to him. Thoughts and prayers to his wife, Karen, and his whole family. We are going to miss him, not only here in the studio, but you listening out there. One of the best reporters ever, a bulldog, fearless, and just a great all-around dude. So rest in peace to Pete Combs. You will truly be missed, my friend, and he is truly the star of the show. We will continue the conversation on Twitter and Instagram at Mark Arum, Facebook Mark Arum WSB. Final Mark Arum show of 2019 is tomorrow, so rest up and go to sleep, little baby.
Go to sleep, you little baby.
Guests of the Mark Arum Show stay at the All Suite Omni Hotel, located in the heart of Chicago's Magnificent Mile.